I struggle with what to say because, in my opinion, I've already said quite a bit, and even if I didn't use that many words to say it, or if the breadth of it is smaller than some would prefer, a lot's been said. So, you know, just heading down by the water here, the river sustains life, it always has. I have no ID and I have no passport, but despite that, I think I should be able to travel across Canada fairly easily, and not to mock Native people whatsoever, but out of respect for their traditions and their wisdom, right? I could foresee a future where I travel North America following the seasons, so north in summer and south in winter. And make your way around the coastlines on east and west during the off season. Never permanently residing anywhere, but impermanently residing everywhere, which is the opposite and the most effective, especially if you plan to have annual events in the lands that you'll be regularly journeying through, right? So anyway, it allowed them to follow what was available in season, and it probably will require some practice, but everything worthwhile takes time, right? So even if this is a beginning, most beginnings end in endings. So I'm just shooting for a good ending, not just for myself, but for everybody. Now today I just wanted to quickly mention waking vision, which was attached actually to a bunch of signs that I witnessed in 2012. So before my last vision or dream that I mentioned in 2014, 2012 I was pretty much asleep. I was homeless, things were tight, things were rough, but I still had access to like welfare if I wanted to apply for it, and I could work my way back into a little room where I could sit there and not progress too far without too much. And, I was in a room with bugs, cockroaches, and bed bugs for over $500 a month, so not ideal conditions, right? And this is a pattern that repeated all the way up until just last year, with a slight, break in the bugs. I had one decent landlady that took it upon herself to go to the States and get a chemical that wasn't allowed in Canada, and I'm not saying this to get her into trouble whatsoever, and I hope that no trouble comes to her because of this, but she cared enough when I was in Ottawa to actually do something about the problem. And so to this day, I'll commend her for that. And I'll also say, as I said to her one day, when she puts herself together, it's something worthy of compliment. I'll just say that. But in 2012, when I was in Ottawa on the streets, right, this was around the time when I was coming to terms with being separated from my family, both for purposes of finding myself and not trying to live the life that they projected for me, but to try to find my own path, and also realizing that when I came to visit, even for family gatherings, I was just adding burden from the beginning to the end. Whether it was, it technically would require a ride there, Well, that means somebody's got to drive from where they are to where I am and drive me to where they are, and then reverse the trip afterward, right? Just so I can be there, which is one, I would say, big inconvenience to whoever wants to host me, family or not. And secondly, I'd arrive empty-handed, which may not have bothered people that I would visit, but it bothered me. So for all those reasons, I took a number of years to myself. That's when I finally, after about 5 years of being away from my mother and my sister, my closest, and my kids, as a byproduct, not my intention, but a byproduct of my absence. That's when I had the vision about my mother passing, and it came to pass. So to continue with the 2012 vision, it's pretty simple. It was just about the owl. The owl was everywhere. The owl was in chalk drawings. The owl was in window stores. The owl was on people's purses, on book covers, in graffiti. The signs were everywhere. So I'm like, okay, what's with this friggin' owl, right? So I looked into it, and the owl in ancient custom is the embodiment of Moloch, which is Moloch, which is an ancient god, which is a false god, because, aside from the true God, there are no gods. But it was an entity that existed that was probably more than human, that took godhood seriously, and, foolish people accepted a lie, really. But search for Moloch led to the U.S. Congress, and how every president and every, election time, they pay homage to this owl god in the grove, which is in fact the same Moloch. And, look it up. There's probably more to it than that. I mean, that's a pretty major coincidence. The point being, it's a false god. There's one true God, the God that Pharaoh came to know. It cost him his life. The very reason that Egypt ceased to exist as a power in the world, regardless of what historians want to believe. As Ron Wyatt can verify, the chariot parts still lie in the Red Sea on both shores. So the Bible accounts for him being present in the waters that receded, and he and his army being destroyed. So what happened to Egypt? Their leader and their whole army was destroyed. Their son was killed earlier by a curse that they had spoke upon the children of Israel, that came back on them because of the power of the Holy Spirit. At that time, the Lord hadn't come to be yet, but the name of the Lord existed. And it's nothing to mess with. Signs of the times, folks, or at least at Wormwood, when it talks in Revelation about the Euphrates River drying up, and we're past that point. So I'm probably, they say 10 steps ahead. I'm sure I'm at least that, and I'm waiting for everyone to catch up. So I'm waiting.